Jacqueline, to kick off whilst we wait for Fariba, why don't we start by introducing ourselves, if that makes sense? I'm Rich, CEO and co-founder at Virgo. We're an integration for accounting software in the construction industry. I got to know Fariba through the CFMA, which has been an amazing community for us to network and learn more about the pain points and challenges in the industry. And I believe you're a client of Fariba's. So whilst we wait for Fariba to join, we'd love to learn a bit about you and your business and how you got to connect and meet Fariba.
Hey, my name is Jacqueline Pruitt. I'm president and CEO of Marvelous Steel Placers. We furnish and install rebar. We are a subcontractor. We also can be a second tier, first tier, or sub tier, second tier subcontractor. We're signatory to Ironworkers Local 416, which is where we get our labor from. And we do work pretty much in Los Angeles, the surrounding areas. We go as far south as San Diego and as far north as Ventura. And we have been in business, been in business since 2016. I myself come from the field of ironworks. I did the apprenticeship, journeyed out, ran a couple of jobs, built a couple of buildings. Some of you may be familiar with in LA. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome. And Fariba, I know you and Jacqueline have worked with each other for a number of years now. Jacqueline, how did you reach out to Fariba? Like, what stage was the business at when you needed some help? And what were the challenges you faced at that time?
Why reached out to Fariba? I was referred to Fariba because I was in need of accounting, professional accounting assistance. I had already had a couple of contracts and I had QuickBooks and I was trying to manage that myself because I thought the word QuickBooks meant learn quick and do your books, but not the case. So be it that we were having contracts and getting more contracts and the need for accounting assistance was detrimental, would have been, it would have been, we wouldn't be as far as we are without accounting. So when I was referred over to her, it was probably about year 2 or 3. We hadn't done that much work, but since then we've done even more work, and it's because we were able to get our accounting department together with Fariba.
Awesome.
And
I think that's a good segue to introduce you, Fariba. Obviously, you're the star of the show, and we've been working together for a number of
actually. Well, Jacqueline is the star, but we can't see her well because for some reason the back.
Let me move it around.
It's also her birthday. Happy birthday, Jacqueline.
Yeah, happy birthday, Jacqueline. We'll send you some flowers or something.
Yeah, I think she's in a hotel traveling for work, so she doesn't have the optimum setting.
No. How's this?
It's better, much better.
Okay.
Well, thanks for having us, Richard. And my name is Fariba Mehdian. I'm a CPA, and also I am certified in construction financial management. Over the 20+ past years, I worked with many construction companies, different trades, as general contractors, subcontractors, heavy equipment contractors, and basically know the industry well. And I guess that's really my brief introduction.
Yeah, so I'm curious, Fariba, how did you get started in the construction industry? I mean, obviously, when you're an accountant or a CPA, you could do any industry, multi-industries. It seems like you've specialized in construction. Is there any backstory to that?
Yeah, well, when I started as a staff accountant in public accounting in a CPA firm, actually, there was a large focus on construction that firm had. And I was there for about 8-9 years. And then, as it happens to many people who are in public accounting, one of my clients who was a heavy construction company needed, the CFO, so they hired me. I had worked with them for a while, for several years. But, it's a very different dynamic when you're the outside CPA working with a company versus somebody that, you're working inside the company, as all the accountants would know. Because in the outside CPA, you don't deal with the day-to-day planning or anything like that. You just, towards the end of the year, you get the information, maybe you do their audits and formal financial statements and, work with them on their tax side, but not really what's going on a day-to-day basis. And I really enjoyed understanding my clients and my companies. And when I got inside the construction company, there was a whole different learning process. So, and then, I just continued. Actually, I went back to public accounting at a few years. And now in the last 3 years, I started my own firm, concentrating on consulting and fractional CFO work. And I've been working with Jacqueline on both sides, as the outside CPA and also the fractional CFO of the company.
Nice. And what stands out to you as being like the biggest challenge that construction companies have to face? And I guess like depending on the size of the company and their growth trajectory, does that change and evolve?
Well, I'm sure the challenges I know about is different from the challenges that Jacqueline faces, on a day-to-day basis. But the biggest challenges I see, first of all, it's especially for younger construction companies that have a lot of, tight budget, needing to understand that it's really important to invest in your company. And what that means is basically having the systems, whether it's the technology, whether it's just the procedures in place. I think, I'm sure most of us have heard of the Atomic Habit book written by James Clear, in which he says, you don't rise to the level of your goals, but you fall to the level of your systems. And if you don't have those systems in place, it's really hard to attain the goals and outcomes. So instead of concentrating on the outcome, we really need to concentrate on the systems, or in James Clear's word, on the habits. And if we do place the put the systems in place, then we will attain what we want. And by systems, I really mean it could be just policies and procedures that are really important, documentation, and then the right technology. So the biggest challenge I see is the integration when it comes to accounting side, which, like, according to Warren Buffett, accounting is the language of business. And if we don't have the right technology and integration of technology in place, then it's really hard to understand how we are performing and are we a profitable company or not.
Yeah, and this is something that you've helped educate me a lot on, is how important those integrations are. And obviously in finance and accounting, getting data as close to real time is super valuable and obviously very important for running the business. Maybe you could speak to, like, in terms of systems and policies and procedures that you maybe helped implement at Jacqueline's company. When you first joined, what was the state of the business and how has it evolved since then through your help?
Well, I think when I started working with Jacqueline, the company was a lot smaller. And so there were really like smaller projects, very smaller duration, even though the company had other than all the other projects, had a very large project, which I think we finished last year, about $13 million, but it took over 5 years, Jacqueline, right? Which was, the building in the rail system of the Los Angeles County rail system. And it's still going on, but I think Jacqueline's part is done. So I believe when the Marvella Steel Placers, the company that is owned by Jacqueline, started the company, bidding for that job and estimating, even though they had done it, they had been rewarded the job, maybe it wasn't really planned the way it should have been planned. So the job finished, and it was a great, created great recognition for the company and very successful, however, not as profitable as we wanted it to be. And I think the planning at the beginning, beforehand, like start slow before you go fast, planning and scheduling and basically having all the tasks planned and scheduled beforehand, it makes a huge difference. And the other thing that I think Jacqueline and I have worked really great together is building that strong relationship and trusting that, she can honestly call me or text me any time of the day. And she's trusted me to be, somebody who can be a good advisor, just using my experience and knowledge and listening and also, implementing. So I think those are the things that have been really helpful in making the company what it is today. And I'm very proud to be part of it.
That's awesome. And I guess, Jacqueline, on your side, you're obviously a business owner, but also responsible for finances and making sure everything is done correctly. You're trying to grow your business. Do you want to speak to it from your perspective as like an owner and trying to grow a business whilst also being mindful of things like profit, and how Fariba's maybe helped you forecast and realize, okay, maybe we need to like slow down at this point? Yeah, how have you approached it?
Well, like I said, I came from the field, so I knew the field. As far as the business side of it, I was learning as I went, and I've had mentors and people, going to webinars and seminars, learning these things. You need an attorney, you need an accountant, you need a bonding agent, you need an insurance agent. All of these people are not the same person, and that person should not be you. So I wasn't expecting for us to grow as rapidly as we did. Grateful that I did have Fariba in place prior to the growth so that I can learn the financial part, which is the most important part, right? We're in business to make money, and how it affects how making money or not making money can affect the company in the long term. So once Fariba came on, she was giving me a better understanding of the finances, the profits, financial statements, taxes. I didn't understand why I was paying so much in taxes, but I understand I have to, you have to pay taxes. And how it also affects me in other areas, because the finances in construction are utilized when you're trying to get bonding. If we're trying to go after a project that's requiring us to bond, we're going to have financials compiled, audited, reviewed, or whatnot to provide them. And that's something that you can't just have you can't just have like a commercial accounting system run a report and send to them, or make an Excel spreadsheet off of, something you downloaded on the internet. You actually have to have a professional that knows where to put, knows the chart of accounts, knows what line goes here, and she also explained to me what everything on financial statements and the balance sheets, and even learning how to do a WIP. She's explained those things to me, and it gives me the information that I need to, when we have a job going, know what to look for and how it's going to affect us in the long run. So, having a professional and someone with so much construction and experience, which is key. I wouldn't have been able to make it this far if I had a McDonald's or restaurant accountant, because it's a different beast, right? There's a lot of we have pay apps, we have projects with retention, which is money that's earned, but it's not cash, right? We have joint checks. We have a bunch of different ways to get paid, and all of those have to be reflected properly on our financials, which, You know, in order to tell any type of establishment what our company is, it's through our financials. So we have good financials this year. We're a good company, and not that if we have bad financials, we're a bad company, but to be able to show the growth and the loss or the gains is very important. And I've come to learn that over the years working with Fariba.
That's awesome. And you mentioned obviously you came from the field yourself, so you have probably a lot of empathy towards the project managers and the field on these kind of accounting processes. I know the WIP report is obviously one that they're heavily involved in, but they're also involved in things like receipt collections and invoice approvals. What is, from your experience, like what is the biggest pain points that the field and the project managers have when it comes to being involved in these types of things?
Okay, repeat that question.
So project managers and the field who are often responsible for cost projections as part of the WIP and stuff, they're also very busy people working on projects. How is it from their perspective doing these financial and accounting processes? Do they understand it? Do they enjoy it? Do you think they need some training?
They actually they don't understand it, but it's my job and Fariba's job to be able to identify the deficiencies or non-deficiencies and to communicate that to the field and be strategic in how we're going to manage it. We have when we're like low on cash, not low on cash, but we have a project that we have a certain amount of hours. We have journeymen and we have apprentices. Journeymen are obviously the highest paid and apprentices are the lowest paid. So it's on me to recognize, well, okay, we have this much cash and we need to make it to when we get paid, which could be 30, 60 days. So I have to be able to break down like how many journeymen, because we still need those same amount of people to do a job, but we also need to be creative in regards to how we're going to utilize the cash on hand that's going to float us to when we get paid. So as far as a project management team, I'm the one that enforces that and explains, hey, we have 12 journeymen. We need 6 apprentices and 6 journeymen. So that can decrease the cost of the cash. And we also need to look at, do we really need 5 guys that one day? Can we go with 3 guys? So it's a learning process, all the way from everything that I'm learning and being able to communicate that to the field effectively. And as we're going, they're learning, the happier I am, the happier everything is. I have my operations manager and I'm constantly on him, and so he starts, okay, well, what are some different ways that we can do this to ensure that the cash stays healthy, and also production. We have to do good. It's not just utilizing the cash, but are we maximizing the profit in that cash that it has been estimated to do said element?
Yeah. So basically the kind of like your resource allocation and how you use your team is so closely tied to the financials that you're constantly having to like iterate on how you use people and how you plan for it. How do you do that today? Do you use spreadsheets? Does Fariba help with that? Like how are you constantly tweaking that model?
Well, we're using spreadsheets, and we're also looking at implementing some software that's specific to rebar. The rebar trade is actually made by a guy that used to be a iron worker, and he developed the software, and since then, generations on, his grandson now has the company and it has just made it so perfect for iron workers, starting from the estimate all the way down to the billing. So you're tracking the production, you're tracking the cost of materials, you're tracking every single aspect when I started, I didn't when I started, I didn't know that all this stuff mattered, but it plays a major part. So then that's what's gonna allow the our project manager to have a more hands-on control. He won't need me to say, okay, we're running low on cash and, you know, come up with different ways. He can actually see it in the software that we're using and getting pulling reports and being able to share that information with the field. The spreadsheets that we're using now it's a spreadsheet. You know, we want to move into software that it makes everybody's job more efficient and more productive. Like Fariba was saying, it's like an integration. We are, you know, it's like we're getting into the ocean. We want to go surf, but we have to get over this wave and we have to float. And until we find something that right wave to ride in on, you know, all of this being taught by somebody that already has been surfing, right? So that's kind of a, you know, kind of an analogy in regards to the items that we're using now and versus what we're looking for.
That's amazing. Yeah, and we'll find the name of that software and I can include it in the follow-up email for anyone that's interested. So I guess for Reba, like you mentioned technology and integrations quite a lot. Probably a big part of like your work and impact is educating clients on tools that they should use, systems that they might want to consider. How have you seen that typically work in the past with clients that you work with?
Oh, how do I see that doesn't work? Is that what you asked?
No, so like when you start working with a client, how do you think about reviewing what systems and technologies they're using and thinking about where they might be able to solve any of those gaps?
I see. Well, really depending on what type of company. I mean, is it like a younger construction company versus a company that has been, you know, in business for many years? And then what kind of internal accounting team they have. So basically, it's first of all, it's really understanding the company. And then a lot of times, a lot of business owners make decisions without having enough information. So they just, you know, they may think they are making money because there's cash in the bank, but does it mean that do we actually have a lot of liabilities that we are not thinking about, right? We haven't received our subcontractors' expense or invoices or bills yet, or you know, I'm going to pay late or I'm going to pay later without thinking about the relationship that could be impacted by paying the vendors late or the subcontractors late. So by what I'm saying, first of all, we need to make sure that whoever is doing our bookkeeping or internal is really knowledgeable and understands that everything needs to be recorded properly. And, you know, we can't be on cash method of accounting. And this is definitely for smaller companies that they just started. Having cash in the bank doesn't necessarily mean we are making money. It, of course, means that, you know, it helps us our working capital and running the business. But again, talking about integration, for example, using the software that you have created, Virgo, it works and integrates with many construction software. Even though a lot of construction software already have the work in progress report themselves, what happens, many companies are not using those. We're not talking about QuickBooks. QuickBooks doesn't have, even though it may have been called contractor's version, it really doesn't have a lot of reports that we need. So that's why we end up working outside of QuickBooks in Excel formats. And that's when a software like Virgo comes in place, because then you don't have to do it in Excel. You can integrate it with your software. And even the other softwares, many softwares such as Sage, Foundation, CMIC, all of those have their own work in progress. The reason many accountants and controllers don't necessarily rely on that, because you have to constantly go in the system and you change your estimates and your budgets and your put your change orders and unapproved change orders that may not get approved. You have to constantly make those changes in your software, and they don't want to do that. And I understand why not, because construction is all based on estimates, right? Nothing is 100% until the job's done. And how many times do you want to go and make changes to your budgets and estimates? And that's why people stop using it and go to an Excel version. However, if they use something that can be integrated with their system, so they don't have to make the change actually in their software, but they can use it and make those changes and estimates and budgets and change orders in that other software that is kind of bridging to their accounting software. I think that's definitely very helpful. Like one of the things that we actually experienced with Marvella was payroll. And this is a very high intensive labor company. Majority of the cost is cost of labor, with a lot of fringe benefits and everything. And using one of the just general payroll processing companies was extremely actually ineffective, because you had to do everything duplicate. And basically what we did, we changed to a payroll processing company that can do the job costing for us and upload to QuickBooks, which is not necessarily something that many major payroll processing companies do. So it's really using the companies and the systems that are built for your trade and for your business. And I'm really thankful that somebody like you, Richard, come and think about the industry and what is it that we need to do to make it more integrated and more effective, that companies know how they are performing at any given time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Out of interest, what was the name of the payroll company that you implemented, just for anyone listening? Do you remember the name?
How did it work, you said?
Yeah, what was the name of the payroll software that you
Do we want to name names?
Yeah, go
it's
for
called
it.
Coastal Payroll. It's a regional payroll.
Yeah, it works well. That's great. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
well, obviously our perspective at Virgo is that there's just so much opportunity to obsess over construction workflows and see how teams work and build software. So we're super excited. And one of the things you mentioned was the whip, and that's where we've spent a lot of time together designing our software to help automate that process. I think my perspective was always that that's such a collaborative process between the field, getting those estimates in, project managers, and the accounting team, that the Sage or the QuickBooks or whatever ERP you're using isn't the best place for project managers to really work. Excel is also clunky, and you have different versions and have to email it around and stuff like that. So yeah, building that kind of like really collaborative and easy to use software is kind of what we've tried to do. I guess like Jacqueline, from your perspective, like how important is it that your field guys can use technology and it's like super easy and simple for them to operate?
It's very, very important. They're iron workers. We're iron workers. It's construction, it's hands, it's tools, it's computers and phones and tablets. It's almost irritating for the most of them, because it's a different way to get things done. So for it to be easy, easy to learn, easy to utilize is a definite positive, because a lot of construction guys are also used to doing stuff the way that they're used to doing stuff. Like my mentality when starting the company, I can be my own accountant. It's not that hard. It's numbers, right? Absolutely not. So being open to that change, which, a lot of people aren't really open to change, is something that, that's the big hurdle. But to have a soft pillow to land on, ease of use would be very helpful. and it's very important.
Yeah. And do you feel the field like using mobile apps or tablets, like, or do they have like laptops? What's the easiest way for them to provide data to the accounting team?
I have a old school foreman. Uh, he's in his 60s. He would rather fill out a piece of paper and drop it off. And I have the younger ones who are more they're used to using iPads and phones and email. So we're pushing for them to learn how to use spreadsheets and anything that we have that's innovative and technology driven, so that we can keep that engine primed, because we do know that that's what this world is pretty much based off of is technology, apps, software, and so on and so forth. That these are items that are going to help our jobs become easier at the end of the day,
Yeah. And do you think also for like attracting talent and younger guys to come and work for you, that also is an incentive for like having modern tools?
Yeah, that would be wonderful to have younger guys come in. It's we're having it's almost it's that's one of the challenges that we're having right now is getting younger guys, because the younger generation is more, we want to do tech stuff. We want to, that not too many guys want to go out into the field, sweat all day, be bent over and tying rebar and carrying rebar, and so to be able to have the tech savvy younger generation come in, and not so much replace, but they're gonna have to replace the guys that want to fill out a piece of paper and mail it or drop it off. So yeah, that's something that we're hoping we can try to gauge and get them both at the same time in one person. But yeah, that would be a plus.
And you're currently using QuickBooks, right? Have you considered moving to one of these larger ERPs? I know that it's like a big moment in the company where you graduate, as it were. Is that something that you and Fariba have been chatting about?
Yes, we've been chatting about that probably for more than a year now, probably 2 years, because of there's a learning curve, right? When we come across something new, such as now we're getting into projects where they're holding retention, and we have to manipulate QuickBooks to be able to understand or be able to translate that information to the financials. So we have definitely thought about other softwares. And then yes, it's about graduation and growing, because we're not wearing the same shoes that we were wearing when we were 7 years old. We have to find something that fits where we're at when we're there. So yeah, we did most definitely have been talking about that.
Nice. And I know there's probably quite a lot of CFOs that are joining this webinar that are probably their owners are sitting down with them saying, this year we want to grow, we want to hit like more revenue targets. There's obviously like labor constraints. How do you sit down with your team and think about setting targets for the year? And how does Fariba also help, I guess, with that planning and what's realistic and how can we hit those targets?
Well, Fariba is always, because of her experience, knowledge, and just her desire to be a part of the team and be a major part of the team, is always giving, advising, suggesting, and even providing resources so that we can grow into that. She'll see something where she's a good predictor. She's like, you might want to think about getting, training your office person to be able to input AP, AR, AP, which is innovative, and it's helpful. We sorry, my attention just went that way. But we meet as a team, and she's pretty much the leader. This is what we need to do, as far as a financial stance, right? Because she has that experience. So we sit down and we like we were discussing this software. It's called Sule. We're discussing this software, and we have to sit down and we have to do projections, because as much as I want everything to be free, everything comes with a price tag, right? So it's like, can we afford this? How much more do we have to add to our estimate or to our bids to be able to cover for this new overhead cost? So we do that on a at bare minimum quarterly basis. I check in with Fariba about anything that has something to do with money in the company, any uh, because I need that guidance. Is it okay to buy this piece of equipment, or should we lease it, or what should we do about this? So the team thing is a as I would love to have it every week, which one day we'll be pushing for every week and then every day, but just for that, it's like a comfort, and everybody plays their part. The our operations manager manages the field. I'm procuring work. Fariba is that glue, so that we can operate in the field and I can bring in more work.
Yeah, and Fariba, I'm super curious. Like when you do planning and forecasting and setting targets, is it on a like profit basis? Is it on a top line revenue basis? How are you kind of consulting and helping make those decisions and targets?
Well, we kind of have to kind of reverse engineer, right? So what is the outcome? What do we want to accomplish? And then kind of, look at that and then look at it quarterly, and are we there? So most companies, a lot of companies want to grow. I've had just one client over all the years that the only thing he didn't want to grow. He said, as long as I make this much money, why would I want to grow? And yes, if you have really great margins on your projects, then probably growing doesn't matter, right? But so in a company like Marvella, for example, planning is really how much do we want to grow and what kind of projects are we going to want to bid for? So how do our financials need to look like to be able to get that bonding and the line of credit that we need for our working capital purposes? So we look at the what the outcome we want and then plan it accordingly. And also it's basically building their internal structure. I mean, we have changed. When I say we, meaning Marvella, because I still feel part of that. We've really changed a lot. I mean, a lot of times these companies start with somebody that a sister or a brother or whoever, maybe a bookkeeper, can do bookkeeping, and then realizing that's not working. I think that what's really important to think about our accounting department as a profit center, not a cost center. As long as we think that's overhead and it's money that doesn't need to be spent, whether it comes to the people that we have or the systems that we have in place, then overhead is not a good thing. We don't want overhead. But believe me, the accounting team can pay for themselves if it's effective and efficient. And again, it's a combination and collective of people who are willing to learn and get better and do well, and the technology and procedures in place. So that collection can really be a profit center for any company, and that's what we need and how we need to look at it, not overhead.
And Jacqueline, from your perspective, obviously, would be super curious to hear what are you motivated by? Obviously, you want to grow your business, and you obviously understand that profit is key. What are you looking for like the next couple of years? Are you trying to grow top line, gain market share? How do you think about growing and working with Fariba on getting those goals?
I want to grow slow, but profitable, right? And also, my thing is to be able to provide opportunities for people who aren't provided those opportunities. There are a lot of good iron workers out there that are overlooked, or they have to wait until somebody retires to be put into a good position or a leadership position. So I want to be able to, our next goal is double figure or double digit millions. We're at 7 million a year. I want to do 10 million. So, you know, just enough growth that we're growing comfortably. And we also have the opportunity to invest in things that are going to help us grow as well and be able to integrate those. I don't want to grow so much and, oh, we need this software, but it's too late now. We should have had that implemented, you know, prior to, you know. So as we're growing, I also want to grow, not learn how to grow, or just grow mentally, you know, and mature, especially being on this side of the business. There's a lot to learn. I'm always learning something, and how one thing affects another. I want to be able to pretty much know which way to go. You know what I mean? Without force. You know,
Yeah.
I'm open to learning and open to. Since having Fariba, I've realized that, you know, I have to invest in people who are professionals at what they do. You know, I'm not the one all, and also growing a team and us growing the company together.
Yeah. And when you think about the levers that you can pull to grow, obviously you can be bidding on more jobs. Are you constrained typically by like your labor, like your team size, and or is it you don't win jobs? Like, how do you think you can hit that revenue goal?
I am I don't feel any constraints. I think it's just a matter of having the proper systems, policies, and procedures and people in place to to carry those out. And we, you know, we all on the same boat, and we're all, you know, rowing together. So I believe everything is achievable. I never thought I would be where I'm at now, but now I am where I am, and I have people around me who are supporting me, and they believe in me, that anything is achievable. So, um, I most definitely think that we can do it. We've come thus far, you know.
That's amazing. And we've got a few minutes left, so Fariba, wanted to kind of get your thoughts quickly on what are some of the biggest kind of mistakes that you see when you start working with new customers that are like the low-hanging fruit that you typically address, just for anyone that's on the call that might have some of those outstanding challenges that they should maybe prioritize.
I think understand job costing, honestly, in the construction industry is probably the biggest challenge. Obviously, you know, every contractor is talking about labor. I mean, thankfully, in Jacqueline's case, and using the union employees and being a union contractor, they may be less of that. But in many construction companies, labor force is a big challenge. And basically, a lot of times people have to, even if they don't have enough jobs, they have to kind of keep some of the good employees because they don't want to lose them, because then they may not be able to get them back, right? So if we are not thinking about our job costs, and if our labor force is not productive, so maybe biggest challenge is also productivity, because yes, we have enough people, but are they actually producing according to schedule? And also communication. Of course, in any business, the biggest hurdle is really communication. Communicating from the field to the company and then to the accounting people, it's extremely important, because if we inside don't know what's going on in the field, what challenges they are, you know, getting to, then how do we even know how to help them? And then it's also another big challenge for construction companies, change orders, right? I mean, I don't think there is any project that can be done with no change orders. At least I haven't seen one, because not everything can be estimated and predicted properly. So change order management, if we are not doing that, it's almost impossible to make money on the contract. And that means timing. That means communication. That means making sure to get the approval as soon as possible, even though sometimes it's impossible to get it fast. And building relationship. If you're working with a general contractor and their project managers, you really need to work on building relationships. And don't think that, you know, you can sit in your office and everything is hunky-dory and getting done. So, and then again, a good system in place. I don't know how many times I want to emphasize that. And again, system, the right people and the right technology.
Yeah. And on the job costing, because that's like huge, and obviously change orders as well. What do most people get wrong with job costing? What do you wish that most owners or business people would understand about that and why it's so important?
Well, because if we are not properly allocating jobs, costs to the jobs, we're not going to know what kind of job even is a good job for us, right? If maybe we're making bottom line some money, but if we don't know what kind of projects we should go after because we're good in it, then it's not really going to be profitable at the end. Because and other than just job costing properly to every job, how are we going to know that this type of job is a profitable job for us? And it's not just a direct job cost. That, okay, we're buying material for this specific job or the payroll for that specific job. There's a lot of job cost that's indirect, may not be directly for a specific job. For example, fuel costs, right? Most construction companies have trucks and their people drive the trucks, and those trucks have repair and maintenance, fuel. And that project manager or whoever, the foreman who's driving that truck, may be going to various jobs. So it's not specific to a job, but it's still a job cost because we don't need those trucks or those repair and maintenance if we don't have projects. So how do we allocate that? How do we burden our jobs with those kind of costs that may not be direct? So those are all the things that, you know, affects job costing, and a lot of times we don't think about them.
Yeah, and Jacqueline, from your perspective, how important is that, right? So you've completed some projects. Do you have a strong grasp on which ones are profitable, which ones weren't? Do you use that in your analysis when you're doing bidding on future jobs?
Most definitely. Not I think, but I know Historica data is the best data because it's a experience, well learned, right? Our first job I bid, it was 40% material, 40% labor, 10% overhead, 10% profit. Those were my 4 items that I put numbers in. When she says overhead, did I consider fuel for the truck, the cost of the making the payments on the truck, or anything else in that? I really thought overhead, not thought overhead. I really overhead was paying myself, right? So it's absolutely a learning experience from job to job because we had to buy ice for this job. So, you know, it becomes a job costing thing. So the next time we bid on a project that's in the desert and we're starting in the summer, we may need to consider putting ice in that. So yes, it's over the time of doing different types of jobs, doing different types of jobs with different customers, because even being paid on a 30-day, a 60-day, there's also things that you have to consider in pricing that project as well with different customers. So yes, it's most definitely has been utilized and helped with our bidding process, pricing the job. You know, we have to consider it's almost in Las Vegas. So we're gonna have a heck of a fuel bill for just that project specifically.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Awesome. Well, I think that's everything on my end to wrap up. I'm not sure if anyone from the anyone that dialed in wants to ask any questions. I see Jerry's raised his hand. Jerry, I'm gonna allow you to talk if you'd like to jump in. I think Jerry, you're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say hello to Fariba because I worked with
Hi,
her
Jay.
a
It's
long
so
time
good
ago.
to hear from
Both
you.
were cutting our teeth on construction. So hello, Fariba.
Hi, Jerry. We worked together ages ago.
Yes, we did.
And it looks like we're both still in construction.
Yep, that's
Jerry
right.
is actually a very specialized tax, tax person, tax CPA. Are you still with
Right.
a lot of construction companies, Jerry?
Yeah, I'm still focused on construction. And I've got my own firm now, just with no employees, so it's just me doing stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's good to hear from you.
Yeah, I saw you come through as doing the seminar, so I had to come check it out.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that. I
And you
appreciate
did
it.
very well, by the way.
Thank you.
All right, good to talk to you.
Awesome. Well,
Richard, maybe you just tell us a couple of minutes about Virgo and how you've helped companies.
yeah, 100%. So I used to own a construction company in New York. Unfortunately, COVID wiped us out. But before that, I worked in finance at a big bank. So I'm kind of a finance and accounting nerd, you might say. And I learned the hard way from running that business how painful it was with job costing. Just as you said, it's like you never know if your project's making any money. You never know how you're going to pay your bills. You always seem to have money in your bank account, and then one day you don't. So I learned about cash flow and all these pain points, and then was just really excited to help solve some of these problems that we've been chatting about. So Virgo integrates with all of the major construction accounting softwares, QuickBooks, Sage, Viewpoint, Spectrum, Vista, CMIC, Foundation, all these major ones. And we're solving four main pain points, which we think that the project managers spend a lot of their time doing. So one is expense management. So that is gathering credit card receipts and everything that the field might be spending. So like ICE would be a great example, getting that information in real time, making sure it's costed to that job. The second one is invoice approvals. Again, that's something that the PMs are heavily involved in. And the third one is basically the WIP reporting and the forecasting of the costs. So our insight was that PMs need really easy to use software. They need things that are good for their tablets and their mobile phones. So we're really obsessing about how we try and make it as easy as possible for the field to get, provide that all information to the accounting and finance team. And really our like focus is on commercial subcontractors as well, just because they have a very high volume of projects and it becomes even more complicated. If you've got like 20, 50, 100 projects running at the same time, this all becomes extremely overwhelming to manage. So talking about scaling your business and, you want to just double your business in like a year or 2 years, you need software, you need technology to really help with that. And that's where we come in. So we're kind of like launching, we've working with a few customers and anyone that dialed in today, happy to demo the product and show you how it all works, but excited to be really trying to help solve problems with the community, to be honest with you. I think it's been a pleasure working with Fariba and just seeing also from like the CFMA how everyone's so willing to help and everyone wants to solve problems, right? That's like, we're builders, like everyone in construction likes solving problems, and that's what's super exciting about building software for this industry.
Well, thank you so much for having us. And
Yes.
is there?
Yeah, and I'll be sending an email out to everyone that attended. I'll put both your contacts information. Fariba, if you want to obviously provide fractional CFO services and accounting and CPA help. And Jacqueline as well, like I'm sure you work with others in the industry. So happy to put your information in that as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
thank you
much.
for this.
Thanks everyone for dialing in today. Have a great rest of the week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You too. Bye.